but nobody's going to get thrown under the bus for coming to me with a problem with a coworker, themselves, whatever that might be, because I'm here to help you solve the problem, right? The old, nobody wants to hear about your problems. We only want to hear about your solutions. You sent me this interesting article that you read about 3 weekly meetings this manager started having when they went remote for her success as a leader and the success of her team. And it's an interesting article, and we'll go into this in detail, but she talks about the 3 things she'd done. One was this open office hour, right? Where basically her door is open or her Zoom is on. And I know you've done something very similar to that.
Yep.
A work status meeting in the middle of the week, and a work productivity meeting. I guess that was the middle of the week one. The other one was the end of the week. So
right.
I find this interesting because we've talked a lot about how do you keep a culture intact and your people working in a remote environment.
Yeah.
Whether we go back to whether we return to the office or not, I think this is important and can work in person as well as remotely.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, all of these things are just as effective in person than they are remote. But to use one of your words, and you have to be intentional about it. You have to be consistent. You have to be, very consistent with your language. That's one thing that, as a leader in a remote environment, I had to really be mindful of how consistent my language was, and that I made sure that I was over communicating and being available, any time that my staff needed me. So that was really the game changer when it came to a virtual world. I think her 3 ideas are great with sort of the agile mindset of daily huddles, and I think that's great. And I think that what I like about that one particularly is it does keep people on track with the culture and what we need to do and what our mission and vision is and how we're moving forward. I think it's really special that she did that, because everybody's sort of it's a human need, right? People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be part of that mission and vision. And she did a really good job in making sure she reinforced that. But I also think that consistent messaging has to really be part of the overarching issue that you're dealing with in a virtual world. Having done that specifically through COVID for 2 straight years, that was the thing that separated us from great to outstanding, was having a consistent language the entire up and down the chain.
She this open office hour thing that she did on Mondays, or maybe she still does do it on Mondays, is one of her team members, one of her employees suggested this because she had seen another manager do this for her team and thought, what a great idea. So she implemented it, and she said initially, like, nobody came, and eventually people started coming, and like I said, it's a great idea, but I have 2 comments about this. One is she probably didn't know, how do I create a culture of feedback? Because that's what she was looking for.
Yes.
She wanted people to come in, or was committed to people coming in and telling her, well, then you need to tell people. So I'm not just having this open office hour. Here's what this looks like, people. I'm committed to you. I want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is. I really am committed to hearing that. It's something I need to do differently. It's something that we need to come to. If you just want to come in and tell me about your weekend, that's okay. But nobody's going to get thrown under the bus for coming to me with a problem with a coworker, themselves, whatever that might be, because I'm here to help you solve the problem, right? The old, nobody wants to hear about your problems. We only want to hear about your solutions. So come in and I mean, I actually had this conversation with somebody yesterday. And I said, having these issues with so and such, so on and so forth. And I said, but I'm not here to complain about this. I want to come up with a solution that works.
Yeah.
That's my goal here.
Yeah.
And that I think might have been what was missing initially with her. Her heart and intention was in the right place.
Yeah.
But just that one little thing that she might have missed saying.
The over communicating, right? Then it's
Yeah, right.
and she may be doing that now, right? She may it kind of. I guess what happened to her, maybe I don't know. Maybe we'll hear from her after this, but the I think what might have happened, it just might have been a natural progression to that happening, right? It just sort of happened organically, which she's probably really enjoying that now because people are coming in and being honest and open with no repercussions, and as long as you continue to demonstrate that, people will be continue to be open and honest, which is really what you want as a leader, right? And they want that from you. It's all about feedback. It is really about feedback. And, I worked with a company a couple of weeks ago. I was speaking at their kickoff. And one of the things that they, in the pre-call, they said, look, we've got a lot of these COVID babies and we got a lot of these people that they haven't been virtual. They haven't, and we don't know how to give them feedback. We don't know how to, so, we've got to toughen them up a little bit. We've got to make sure that they can, receive feedback. And of course, the other part of that is, let's make sure you are giving it correctly as well. Right. So it's a two-way street and it's important. But I work with that all the time. And I think it's important that we have vulnerability, we're open and we're honest, while we're always making sure that we've got operational cadence and excellence around the business and we're growing and we've got accountability to our shareholders, whatever the case may be. And I think that's really important. It's a two-way street here where you really need to be able to take the feedback, but you're also going to be able to give it the correct way too. And I know that's in your wheelhouse. So maybe you could talk to that a little bit.
Yeah. She talked about her Finish Fridays meeting. Yeah. Her end of the week meeting.
The wins. Yeah.
Right. And me, I love all the positive stuff, but if you focus on only the positive stuff, there's going to be something somebody's going to be struggling with that they're not going to be able to talk about.
Right.
So, this Friday meeting, give everybody a chance to share their wins for the week. Love it. I mean, I'm in a group, mastermind that I'm in, and that's the first thing that people share. What are your wins?
Right.
And then she says the priorities for next week. Often that kind of goes in there, and then people's plans for the weekend, right? Which was the personal thing, which I love. Yeah. But, the other thing that we do is, what do you need help with? Because once you've got everybody on that call together, which the Monday call doesn't have, right? People just drop in and out.
Right.
That's where it turns into a group of people helping each other.
Collaboration. Yeah.
So here's my wins for the week. This is what I've got going for next week. And, here's what I need help with.
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, if there's time, and here's what I'm up to this weekend.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's important. Getting everybody together, because somebody's gonna come up with something that whoever's running the mastermind isn't gonna come up with. Always happens.
Always. Well, that's
any group that you're in, really.
Well, exactly, and that's why diversity is so important, right? I mean, you get different people, different walks of life, different age groups. You want all those different perspectives. That's what diversity is all about.
What do you think about this productivity meeting in the middle of the week that she talked about?
I like that because, you've heard me say before, if you manage your business once a year, you get once a year results and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Once a month, once a quarter, it goes on and on. But once a week to me is that's what you want to do because life and business is running so fast right now. And that's why it's important to have both those issues talked about weekly. There could be some life issues that need to be addressed or personal issues that they're struggling with, and you got to get those taken care of, right? So they don't fester longer. But on the business side, making those midline corrections is so important, and the only way you do that is to manage the business
right
on a weekly and sometimes daily. And it's okay to do that too. The more frequent you manage the business, the more frequent you can change if you need to and get those results. Because sometimes it's just a little tiny tweak you need, and you're going to miss it out if it goes a week, a month, and then it becomes a little bit bigger. Not such a little tweak and a bigger issue. And then if you wait a whole quarter, it could be like moving a mountain, and then forget it after that. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
I think it's important to note that it's great that she's got these 3 weekly meetings. But I do want to note that my hope for her is that she is actually saying to people, listen, these aren't the only 3 times you can come to me.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah.
If there's something that cannot wait,
you
need to come to me now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get
and
the
she didn't
sense
mention anything about that in the article. It sort of left me wondering, well,
yeah, they didn't mention it, but I get the sense from her tone of how she
yes,
leads that I think that she is, and I don't know her, of course, but
right.
I'm just guessing here
Yeah.
from the words in between the sentences. Is I think she's, very much a servant leader. The fact that she even did this, right? I mean,
Yep.
so I'm sure she has that availability, and I think, even though I had scheduled one-on-ones every Friday with my directs, and I certainly was always there for them, and they knew that. I would have conversations throughout the week, off the record, on the record. Important.
Are you hearing, Rob, since we're talking about meetings, that companies are still just meeting to death?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still that. I think what's happened over time with the virtual is that no one picks up the phone anymore and just has a conversation, or meets for coffee. They'll just set up a Zoom. It's like, in fact, our technology does it for us, right? We start a meeting and it just click and you add a Zoom and you're done. And it just seems so easy versus where would you like to meet? Or hey, can you meet at Starbucks or can you meet at whatever? And I think that that's unfortunate that we've come to that over the last several years. And technology has helped us do that because it's one click away and you have a Zoom and hey, I'm meeting you. It's like, but you're not meeting me. We're using technology to get together. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm a technology guy. I love every shiny object, and that's fine. But I think it's gotten away from us where that's all we do now. And it's unfortunate, in my opinion. But,
I just interviewed somebody for the show, somebody I've known for a long time. He was a member of my club, and we, became friendly. And he's the CEO of a company in Denver, and he lives, I don't know, maybe 17, 20 minutes from me, depending on traffic. And he said, after we were done recording the interview, he said, it's been a long time. Let's get together. So, we're going to get together next Friday. I'll meet him for coffee in town. It'll be nice to just sit down and, chat for an hour about, business, personal, whatever that might be.
right.
And I think that, I'll tell you, I don't want to change our subject. We've certainly talked a lot about return to office as we did in our last episode around etiquette, but everyone is in the office at his company, including him. He goes, how can I ask everybody else to be in if I'm not willing to do it?
Sure. Right.
So I think that those are things, to your point, it's technology has just made it so easy not to get together with people.
Yeah.
I mean, although I love to get out, and he said, we're going to get together at 7:30. I said, I just want to let you know, I will be in my gym clothes. He's like, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known him for so long, it won't matter, right?
Sure.
But I did say, are you okay if I come in my gym clothes? Go, of course, I don't care.
Yeah.
So part of that is just that communicating, right? He's seen me dressed up enough. He's not going to care if he sees me in my gym clothes.
Right.
But, I certainly will admit to being a victim from time to time of laziness. And the laziness I'm talking about is the laziness of, do I really want to get dressed, fix my hair, put some makeup on, ugh.
Yeah.
And the pandemic did make so many people lazy about that.
Yeah.
I will
It definitely did.
And, and I tell my chief of staff, I say, listen, when you're scheduling recordings for me, you're going to do them on Wednesdays and Fridays. Because I don't want 5 recordings in a week and have to get dressed every single day of the week if I don't actually need to.
That's funny.
So, that works for me. And then, I'm going to go out later. I'm like, okay, good. So at least I've already, I'm already showered and clean and whatever. But
right.
I think it does warrant, to your comment, the importance of making that extra effort when you need to.
Yeah, I think it's important, and it builds that trust with other people too. And I don't. So I do a lot of speaking, and I don't do virtual. That's not my forte, and I will do it, and I have done it, but I don't advertise it.
Right.
And it's one of those things that I'll do as a one-off. But the reality is I have to be present. I have to be, there and mindful for the audience to be able to feel what they need to feel.
It is so much harder. I mean, I've done virtual talks as well. I mean, that's how I started doing them. I think, you had done some of those initially as well.
Yeah.
And you have to know how to engage people when you're doing it online rather than using your whole body, and you're present with them and walking on a stage and looking at people in the eye and all those things that really make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's very true. And there's another skill set. I did learn that skill set. So I can execute virtual meetings. It's just not my favorite thing to do, but it is a huge amount of energy, and there's a whole different skill level of making that connection with the camera and making sure you know that they know you're talking to them, and using their name or whatever the case may be, and the physiology behind that. If I'm doing a virtual talk, of course, I'm standing like I'm on stage, and I'm moving, and they can see that I'm moving. So it's a lot of work, and you hope you can make that connection.
And I think it's also important to say, when I'm leading my roundtables or the women's leadership program, to tell people in advance, hey, one, this is a safe space. I mean, if they've been with you long enough, they already know that, but this sort of the initial things, right?
Yeah.
This is a safe space for you. And secondly, put your phones on do not disturb for the next hour or hour and a half, or however long that meeting is.
Right.
Don't check your email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not being present. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in. You can tell somebody's like typing and the way where they're looking. They're not paying attention, and so on and so forth. And if you're going to be leading something virtually, you have got to say to people, or you're going to lose them. I mean, even in an audience, when you have an audience in front of you, you cannot guarantee somebody's not going to take out their phone and look at it.
No,
unless you ask them to put it on do not disturb and put it away for the next hour.
Right.
And make that request. You're not going to demand it. You make it as a request, and.
No, it's very true. I mean, I deal with that every time I speak. Right.
Yeah.
Am I going to? But that's because it's up to me to really keep them so engaged that they're not going to look at their phone. Right. And that's the difference between the good speakers and the great speakers, and that's what makes us all tick. Right. You've got to keep them engaged. And that's why I go out into the audience. I don't just stay on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in there with them, and they feel that, and they know I'm coming out there. Right. So that's just another way of engaging and making that connection. It's something we're dealing with now, and I think that in the virtual world, it's important. And however you do it, and I applaud this. I applaud her for thinking of this and being intentional and being deliberate about making it a better place to work and have an open dialogue. There's nothing negative about this at all.
I completely agree. Bravo is all I can say.
Exactly.
It is nice. It's so nice to see people really committed to their teams. And doing things in a way that works. Thanks for listening to Evolving Your Workplace After Hours. I'm your host, Carol Schultz.
And I'm your co-host, Rob Swymer. Don't forget to click follow to hear more. And please leave us an honest review and rating so we can continue to improve and bring you more great stories.
Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.